You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel on Q4 Radio AM 1680, Q4.org. This is a special pre-recorded episode. I am your host, Thomas Bottoms. I am joined in the studio today with Mikey Chip.
Hello.
And returning guest, but usually silent, Dan.
Hello, it's good to be back.
How are you doing, Dan? We do. I don't know anything about Scissoring Sisters, and that's the last thing I hear. No.
That was
Sapphic
painful.
Sisters. They're like, nudes
Scissor
in the
me,
woods.
Scissor me timbers.
Yeah. It's like nudes in the woods, and I'm like, well, why don't those women have clothes? At least Eve wore fig leaves. It's just one of those.
You know, this may surprise you. I have not had the desire to go back and listen to them since that show.
So we're doing a special episode today. We are going to examine Sinead O'Connor.
Yes.
A woman who has visited the same hairdresser that I now visit, because we both bar hair. Of course, she has a slight darker sheen, or is she doing the George Clooney gray now? I haven't seen her in a while.
I think there's some gray, but have you seen her last album? She was wearing a long red wig.
Really?
Yes.
Did she look good in the wig, or
a lot different?
A lot
different.
And we're gonna. She has stated that, like, whenever she grows her hair out, they confused her for Enya, and then when she died,
I actually will confirm that, because as I was doing research for this, just in the past 10 minutes. To look up for some of the songs. Yeah, I thought, I'm like, why is Enya video here? And then I realized, that's not Enya.
That's Sinead.
That's Sinead.
And she said when she dyed her hair blonde, she looked like Madonna. And so she...
No.
She doesn't wear enough makeup.
No.
But... we're gonna start it off with a song that first introduced me to Sinead. I actually knew of Sinead in 1987, 1988, before the big hits, where she was featured on BET with one of her songs. They remixed I Want Your Hands on Me with MC Lyte.
What?
To get played on BET. Straight up, true story.
That was a thing?
That was a thing, getting exposure on BET.
No.
Oh.
The Sinead O'Connor mixed with MC Lyte.
Yes.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, she had a little rap. And it's I Want Your Hands on Me, one of my favorite Sinead O'Connor songs. And it was also used in Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master.
That would be a Nightmare on Elm Street.
I can't even remember the plot of that one. I think people died and someone got pregnant. I think Freddy invaded dreams.
They were in dreams.
So are we ready, Mikey Chip? Can we lead into from Sinead O'Connor's first album released in 1987? I believe she was pregnant. She got pregnant during the course of making the album. She was only 20 years old.
Scandalous.
Such a young woman, a little Irish lass, if you will. I Want Your Hands on Me.
You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel on Q4 Radio, AM 1680, Q4.org.
You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel. I am your host, Thomas Bottoms. I am joined in the studio with regular partner in crime, Mikey Chip, and special guest, Dan. We're talking about Sinead O'Connor, and we featured two songs off her first album from 1987, The Lion and the Cobra, which is actually a biblical reference, and that was I Want Your Hands on Me, followed by Mandinka, which got a huge amount of play on the MTV 120 Minutes, which was the late Sunday night show that said, oh yeah, there's college radio out there, because it wasn't yet called alternative. And what's interesting is that Mandinka was, I guess, sold to the college radio, and I Want Your Hands on Me was sold to the black stations. And I think both of those are exactly where Sinead O'Connor belongs. I really do. I think she crosses all barriers. Go at it, Dan.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Well, she's a enigma herself. I mean, you don't often see, especially in that time period, a very young woman from Ireland with a shaved head.
Oh yes, she was a very young woman, shaved head.
Very outspoken.
Yes.
Very, very outspoken. And she's like the third child of 5, and her parents got divorced when she was 8. And divorce was very taboo in Ireland. They were very pronounced Catholic.
It still is.
Mm-hmm. It still is. And the mother instantly got custody because that was the situation that they did back then, where you just give the kids to the mother. And apparently apparently Sinead Mama made Joan Crawford look timid. And
oh, wow.
There's a series of child abuse and issues of child abuse, and Sinead's had to speak up about the child abuse and the issues she's dealt with. And the father, I guess, fought for custody, and it took a good couple of years that Sinead finally did end up in the custody of her father, but she was already a bad kid by then, shoplifting and being truant, and as we're going to probably play Black Boys on Mopeds, she ran around with people that they felt were unsavory for her, and she was put in kind of a nunnery school.
Well, it was Ireland.
It was Ireland.
Which is where, well, we'll discuss that later, her SNL appearance.
Oh yes. Yeah. We'll get to
but
those
this is where the reason for what she did on the SNL appearance likely happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She wants to save the children, and unlike Michael Jackson, that didn't involve touching them. So, Dan, what was your first introduction to Sinead?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Song-wise, honestly, I'm not sure. I do remember that SNL bit. I remember when that happened, and that was really big. I didn't get into Sinead until much later. Wow, I honestly don't know.
Now, when you got into Sinead, was it with the first 2 albums, or was it?
Yes, it would have been. I guess you could say a combination of the first 2 and a little bit of the more recent stuff.
Okay, because I did look that she started getting into some like Rastafari, and she did an album with like Wyclef Jean, and I may be gone till November, but I haven't felt inspired to check those out. But
I haven't either.
You haven't either.
No.
And for Sinead's defense, she is the Lion and the Cobra only had 2 producers. There was Sinead and someone else,
right? And
they were reluctant to give so much control over to what was a new artist. But she was just very, very adamant, and
yes,
it was very much like I want to do this. This is what I want to do, and that was always something that was really great and unique about Sinead, is that she was very outspoken. But we're gonna. I think we're gonna segue into I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. This album came out in 1990. It was her second album, and some would say it was her, I guess, breakthrough album. That I remembered I Want Your Hands on Me because I was the only white kid watching BET back then. And she even had a write-up in People magazine. I remember reading that before she became so big and so huge and so controversial.
Yep.
And the album I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, usually, especially at the time, was appearing on a lot of the like best of lists.
Yeah.
It was voted as the second best album of 1990, and to this day it's on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time at number 406. And let's go ahead and do that. We're going to listen to Feel So Different and a personal favorite of Mikey and mine, Stretched on Your Grave.
You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel on Q4 Radio, AM 1680, Q4.org.
You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel. I am your host, Thomas Bottoms. This is a pre-recorded show, so if we've said anything such as Sinead O'Connor got hit by a truck or she got dragged out by United, we were unaware of this at this time. during the recording of this show, United was only attacking Asian doctors. It was a very specific group. If they have moved on to Irish pop singers, we are unaware at this time. I am joined in the studio with Mikey, Chip, and Dan Dan.
Yes.
Do you feel Sinead O'Connor should be thrown off airplanes?
No, I don't. I think she would be very...
Well, if she's having an episode...
Oh, that's true.
I don't know if I really want to be on the plane. Her to be on the plane.
What kind of episodes are you talking about?
And Dan, you might explain that one better.
Well, how can we say this? She's a little bit cuckoo at times.
She's
she
cuckoo
can be
for
a
Cocoa
little
Puffs.
bit cuckoo.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Well, I mean, I was supposed to see her. I have seen her live, fortunately. But the first time I was supposed to see her, she just up and canceled the whole tour.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. She just couldn't deal with being in front of people.
Oh, she Morrissey'd.
Pretty much. But a year later, she came back with the... Oh, what was the name of the tour? Something about American Gratefulness Tour, I think it was called, because she's like, sorry I did that, but I'm going to do the tour now. But she had to wear sunglasses so she couldn't see the audience. And if you looked, we were able to see on her monitor, she had a piece of paper taped on it in big letters that said, breathe, breathe, breathe.
Wow.
Yeah.
She is a little bit high strung, I guess.
And then she did have that suicidal episode here in Chicago.
That's true.
A few months ago where she went missing.
She was in Chicago and went missing?
Yes. And she was on suicide watch while she was missing here in Chicago.
I still didn't hear that. I must have tuned out of the world.
That was during that time period.
Yeah.
Oh.
A little bit after, but apparently she has friends on the North Shore somewhere, and I guess she stays with them when she's getting in that zone. That's not a happy zone, and I guess she got on a bicycle and didn't come back.
So she pedaled her ass?
I guess you could say that.
And no one thought she went out shopping. That's kind of... Maybe she went to Uptown to one of them wig stores. You know they got them good weave.
Okay.
They don't spell, but they got good weave.
Okay, she was up in like Winnetka. That's a long bike ride.
She rode her bike from Chicago to Winnetka?
No, from Winnetka to Chicago.
Oh, from Winnetka to Chicago. Oh, that's North Shore.
Yeah.
So she hangs out with rich white folk.
Well,
Yes.
she is...
She is rich and white herself.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know about rich.
I'm sure she's not hurting at all.
I think that second album that we are going to talk about in a minute, that still sets her up. She gets royalty checks, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure she does. And we just played Feel So Different, which is the opening track of I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, which begins with the Serenity Prayer, which is, you know the prayer. Say it, Mikey.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the
ability to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference
between the two.
Yes. And that's something I'm having to do a lot with myself with the Serenity Prayer and the current presidential administration. Oh, no. It's like, well, he's gonna do what he's gonna do. What can I do? Protest. That's it. Like,
and vote.
And vote.
When
and vote. Time. And vote. And Feel So Different. I just love this song, and I was glad to include it. And again, Sinead is one of 4 producers on this album, which when we talk about producers, these are people who are working the tracks, writing the stuff, making it go together, and deciding how it's going to sound. And back in the day, there weren't many producers on albums because when you sell something, you have to split the pie, and depending on how many producers is how many shares people have. And nowadays, I think it was like Nicki Minaj's Pink Print had well over 100 producers, 100 hands sticking their hands into that pie and just taking, I guess, a Hershey's chocolate chip or something. I don't know what you walk out with it for that, but it is interesting how much artists like Sinead O'Connor and Madonna fought tooth and nail to have control over what they want. How Prince in the 90s made a huge temper tantrum because he didn't have control over what he wanted to do. And now we just have pop stars who just kind of sell it away as long as we can get some plastic surgery out of it, I guess.
And that speaks volume for the state of music today.
It really, really does. I had an argument with a comedian friend earlier that he thought he could step to me saying, Diana Ross isn't that strong of a singer. And I was like, well, Diana Ross had to stand next to Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner, and Natalie Cole. And good, bad, or indifferent, I'm pretty sure Diana Ross can sing circles around Meghan Trainor.
Easily.
And I'm pretty sure Rihanna would have to work up her paces to keep up with Miss Ross. Her pipes just were compare contrast, which Sinead got a lot of credit for her singing and her voice.
Yes.
when this album came out.
Well, the weird little thing, for me, every time I hear the name of the album, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, in my head, I have Sinead's voice, Sinead's Irish brogue saying it to me. I do not want what I haven't got. It's the only way I hear it in my head is with Sinead's Irish brogue saying it.
And even the title, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, is a very strong statement that in a culture, especially in the 80s as we were heading towards the 90s, materialism was at an all-time peak, and yuppies were big. It was about how many cars do you have? Well, I have a sports car. Well, I have 2. Well, I have 3. And suddenly it's like, why do you need these 3 cars? And it's a statement of saying I'm happy with what I have.
But you also have to remember that at that time period, Ireland was a very poor country. The Celtic Tiger didn't come through until about 96. So it was essentially a third world country.
Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. How poor?
Really poor.
Really poor.
Now, Dan, you did some time in Ireland.
I did.
Their net emigration has only stopped being negative or positive since about 2000. More people were moving out of Ireland.
Oh wow!
Than coming in
nonstop from the potato famine until about
2000.
Yeah.
The potato famine was
1840.
1840, and that was caused because the world's temperature dropped a couple degrees.
No, it's because the British wanted to starve them to death.
Yeah.
The
British wanted to starve Ireland.
Yes.
Ireland has a very long history, and it's all extremely depressing.
That's why they write a lot of poetry, and they're good at it.
Yep.
And they're good at drinking.
Very good at drinking.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
How do you get through Ireland, Dublin, without passing a bar?
Oh, that was... That's a good one. That was actually a contest that a radio station in Dublin held. It was a legitimate question. How do you get from one end of Dublin to the other without passing a bar? There's only one correct answer. You go in each one. There are no streets that connect both ends of Dublin that do not pass a bar.
Oh, wow. That's shocking because we live in Chicago, and I exit the train, I walk 3 blocks here, I pass one bar, I think, which that's more of the hipster bar that finally opened, and I went in there once, and they have given me no reason to go back, and that's it. And then I have to walk almost half a mile for the next bar. But no, Dublin bars are everywhere. You've been to Dublin, tell us.
Everywhere. Anywhere in the country, really. Seriously.
They're depressed, they like to drink.
Yes. And the best part is, and this is coming up actually, Good Friday. It's the only day in the entire year that it's illegal to sell alcohol in Ireland. So
oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so funny because if you go to the grocery stores, if you go to their liquor section, they're all blocked off with toilet paper and stuff. So you can't even see the alcohol, and you see people... Oh, Jesus, let this be over soon.
Can't even go 24 hours without a drink?
No, and they didn't think to stock up either.
Now, did you drink a lot when you were in Ireland? Was anything else
when
to
in
do?
Rome? No, there's really not.
Oh, wow.
Well, I wasn't in Dublin. I didn't care for Dublin at all. So I ended up on the west coast of Ireland in Galway, which is a very lovely town. It really is. A lot of history. Christopher Columbus actually stopped there on his way to, well, Bahamas or wherever he ended up.
On his trip to India that got sidetracked somewhere in the
Bahamas.
Yeah.
He didn't have an iPhone.
Darn GPSs. What's wrong with that? And you were introduced to a very particular TV show when you were in Ireland.
Yes, Father Ted. That is a great show.
Tell our listeners what Father Ted is, and can they find it?
Yeah, you can find it. I've never seen it on television here, but you can find it on the internet. You can buy the DVDs, whatever. But anyway, it's three Catholic priests who live on this fictional island called Craigie Island, which in reality is the Aran Islands. It's off the west coast of Ireland, and I was actually at the Aran Islands. But the three priests epitomize the three stereotypes of Irish men. There's the young one who's a complete idiot, the middle-aged one who seems normal but has a bit of a gambling problem, and then the older one who hasn't been sober since 1982.
Can the older one actually talk? I'm trying to remember.
Yes, but I cannot say those words on the radio.
I understand that.
I can say two of them. Drink! Girls!
See, that's why I remember him saying drink. Because you showed me an episode where the priest kept taking off their clothes and exchanging clothes for other people. Yes. And even some of the script
Christmas
writers.
episode.
Yes, they were like, why did you remove his clothes if you already had your own clothes to wear?
But I don't know.
I wasn't upset by men removing clothes. I'll never be offended. Don't get me wrong.
But those, no.
Are Irish men known for being hot? Who's a hot Irish guy? Colin Farrell? Is he?
Yeah.
Is it that you don't have the Colin Farrell gene, or is it that he's not Irish?
No, he's Irish.
Oh, okay. I have the Colin Farrell gene. That one works for me, but he's also kind of reached the level of like, I'd have to make him take a shower, and then we'd have to make him wear deodorant.
At this point, his aging is catching up with him.
That's true. He is a hard drinker.
Yeah, so his 24-year-old self and his, 54-year-old self now? Yeah, are two real different things. And
yeah, he's not even 54. He's somewhere in like his late 30s.
He's older than us.
No.
Oh.
No, he isn't.
Oh.
No, he isn't.
Oh.
He is about your age, Mikey, and you're not near 40. I myself am somewhere. I'm timeless. There we go. I've had enough Botox done that no one can tell. But
I thought he was in his 50s. Oh.
Yeah, no, he isn't. He's just aging poorly. Ever see the Colin Farrell sex tape?
No.
Oh, Lord.
I did. His girlfriend looked really, really disinterested, and it's good to know that on the sets there's always 3 tripods. Now, after playing Feel So Different, we also played one of my favorites, Stretched on Your Grave, which is actually a 17th century like Irish folk song.
I was going to bring that up.
Yes, talk about it, David.
Well, this is what I love about Sinead, or any artist who's willing to do this, take something from so long ago and try to bring it to modern times. And she does it well. My only complaint about this song is I think the vocals are mixed a little too low. Considering its origin is as a poem, I think she could have brought the vocals up a little bit.
I could see that. I think it was trying to tap into a lot of the early hip-hop sounds that were taking place, such as Soul to Soul would be a big one, because it's using I believe a drum machine is what's taking place on
definitely.
it. And she's singing with a very, very pronounced Irish lilt.
Oh, yes.
That at that time, I was underage, but I found a man who was legal, and he helped me get a fake ID and flew me to Kansas City. And all I had to do was ride with him through Kansas, which actually I got the worst end of that deal. I really did. Like, don't drive through Kansas. It's flat. It's just
I did that last summer.
Flat. It's flat and brown.
Yeah.
It's like, Mikey, when we drove to New Orleans and you complain like, oh, Arkansas, there's some trees off in the distance. Like, that's not in Kansas. You don't, like, Kansas, you can drive for an hour and everything looks the same.
This is why we're not gonna do that.
Well, last summer, not only did I drive across Kansas, I drove across Nebraska. I just really wanted to punish myself.
Which one's worse, Kansas or Nebraska? Because Nebraska has corn, right?
You're funny.
I view corn like as scenery.
There's really nothing. Surprisingly, I'm going to give Nebraska the edge for more interesting. It's not a big edge, but
mildly more
yes.
interesting. Like, Ariana Grande annoys me far less than Meghan Trainor. There we go.
That's about it.
There we go.
Well, at this point, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with some more Sinead O'Connor. You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel on Q4 Radio, AM 1680, Q4.org.
You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel. I am your host, Thomas Bottoms. You are listening to us on AM 1680, Q4 Radio, Q4.org. This is a pre-recorded show, so if you're calling in or messaging us, we're not paying attention. We recorded this. This was recorded during a time where an Asian man was kicked off United, and we can decide whether or not that's nice. And only thing Pepsi could say is, oh, thank you, United. Thank you. Because apparently a message of someone 6 degrees separate from a Kardashian bringing world peace to racial issues was not viewed very well.
Which, after watching the People versus O.J. Simpson on Netflix this week, very good show, by the way, just made the whole Kardashian connection even weirder. Because the Kardashians were directly involved in the O.J. case. The Kardashian dad was one of his defense lawyers.
Yes, and O.J. was sitting on Kim Kardashian's bed.
He got freaky on Kim Kardashian's bed when she wasn't in the bed because she was a kid then. With O.J.'s.
At least he taught her to get used to stains.
That makes the title of this album we're talking about even more appropriate. I do not want what I haven't got, and I don't got that, and I don't want it.
You don't have the Kardashian.
And I don't want it.
On some level, like, I don't want to be too hateful of Kim Kardashian, but I am comforted that the world has not seen my anus. I am comforted that if they did a lineup of buttocks, my good friend Dan here, who has known me for 8 years now. Lord, I'm not aging us. Who has known me for almost 2 presidential terms. He could possibly take a guess at a lineup of what my booty looked like, which he would probably base it on white and big.
You are proud of your booty.
I am. They get me money. Oh, Mikey, you hate my booty?
No, I do not.
Oh, no, you don't hate my booty. No. But Kim was willing to throw it out there, and I'm glad that people have not witnessed things happen to me that she has been willing to just throw out there. I wear too much clothing, Dan. I wear too much clothing. But I did have the argument about the People versus O.J. Simpson, which again, if it's on Netflix, it's really worth watching. The only complaint some of them have had is like the Cuba Gooding Jr. as O.J., which my only complaint to that one is I think he felt he played O.J. possibly a little bit too soft. And at the end of the day, O.J. was very facially angular and also just a very handsome man. And Cuba Gooding Jr. just, while not unattractive, he would have to show me the money before I consider doing anything with him. But But yeah, go watch it. Go watch it. Watch a easy situation that goes spiraling in ways of insanity.
And actually, watch John Travolta be really entertaining. He's just really entertaining in that check.
And you can also look into a little bit of just how pronounced the sexism was and what happened to poor Marcia Clark, that she was a very competent, very capable lawyer, very intelligent woman who was unfortunately paraded around naked in the tabloids, and was her personality was apparently based on her hairstyle per people viewing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're still talking about Sinead O'Connor because Dan doesn't watch TV.
No, I really don't.
You just sat through the Three Babies and the follow-up single to Nothing Compares to You, Emperor's New Clothes. And when Mikey and I first heard the song Three Babies, we can't help but think that this song is like that Ben Folds 5-song Brick, that it's about abortion.
Well, yeah. Though, as we were, when we were listening to this after a 20-year hiatus between the last time, I think we listened to it on our trip down to New Orleans.
Well, yeah, it's not a feel-good album, but keep going.
Anyway, we were thinking that the abortions were her personal story, and then realizing, doing some research, that those were probably more just symbolic of Ireland. That's even still today, abortion is illegal in Ireland.
So Ireland's very conservative and very Catholic controlled? Is that the country we're looking at?
It was, and the control is really... I mean, gay marriage is legal now.
Right.
The Catholic Church fought against gay marriage, and 67% of Ireland voted for it. So...
Oh, wow.
The abuse scandal that's happened in America in the Catholic Church has been about 5-fold worse in Ireland. So their view of the Catholic Church is very different than it was 20 years ago.
There's that, and also the Celtic Tiger. Now that people actually have money and they're not a third world country anymore, the generation gaps are extremely defined there. I've never seen anything like that. You don't see that as much here. You have the older generation, which is your stereotypical Irish, extremely Catholic, extremely drunk. You have your middle generation, which is very reserved. I think that's because they grew up in a time period where they had nothing and they were controlled by the church, and now they have stuff and are less controlled, so they just kind of stay out of things. And then the younger generation is just like any younger generation in any country. It's so defined. I've never seen anything like it before.
Now, what is this Celtic Tiger you speak of?
Basically, and this is not much of an exaggeration, one night in 1996, Ireland went to bed as a third world country, and they woke up the next morning as a first world country. It was fast. All of a sudden, the economy was improving so well.
Well, I know, for example, Dell Computer moved their production there, so suddenly they were building computers.
There were jobs.
There were
a lot of jobs.
Well, good-paying jobs.
And a lot of them.
Yeah.
Now,
an ex of mine who's from Poland, his sister moved to Ireland because they're part of the EU for work.
oh, wow.
Yes, there's a lot of immigration from Eastern Europe and also from Africa into Ireland right now.
And is Ireland still part of the EU?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just England doing the Brexit.
Right.
Great Britain. Well, actually, England, if you really want to be technical. But, yeah, Great Britain.
And how... Because Ireland's an island off of Great Britain, correct?
Yes. It was part of Great Britain until
and they hate Great Britain a lot.
Oh my goodness. That was one of the times I was at one of the pubs, and this older guy who's been sitting in the same seat since 1932 came up to me and started talking and said, "Here, have a drink," and all this. And then, well, you learn early on, whatever you say, I hate the English. I absolutely hate them. And so I told him that. He said, oh my God, I love you like you're my own son. Didn't have to pay for anything after that.
Mikey and I have noticed we've been so hateful about the English lately that we've noticed that someone like Joanna Lumley, who is slightly above average in attractiveness in the United States, is like a drop-dead gorgeous beauty in England. We've noticed that we're fans of the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and there's a character Simmons who is English, and she's again a very attractive, above average looking woman, but when you throw her in England, it's like suddenly she's the most gorgeous woman that's ever walked down the street. They're not known for being very attractive. Like Princess Di, may she rest in peace, was known as the English rose, a pinnacle of beauty, and I think my nose is more attractive than hers, but I wish her well. I wish her well in the afterlife.
I know the Irish aren't going to like this comparison, but they're really not that far off from the British in looks on there. Because, genetically, they're not that different.
Now, are the Irish known for being redheads, or is that the Scottish? Because Scottish is the country that's connected to the main island of England, right?
They're kissing cousins.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just
like
don't tell them that.
Scottish Gaelic and Irish Gaelic. If you speak one, you can understand the other. Mm-hmm. Like, I can kind of understand drunk Irish, as during college I made very good friends with some Scottish folk and learned drunk Scottish.
Oh,
or learned to understand drunk Scottish.
Could you keep up with the Irishmen as they drunk?
Well, these were Scottish, but I at least have some basis in what they're saying. I may only get one of every 3 words, but I got something. For drunk Irish or Scottish, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we'll go back to the music now. We played earlier "Stretched on Your Grave," where the gentleman who flew me to Kansas City, he was HIV positive, and he actually outright just hated that song, to the point where he was like, "Can you just stop playing that song? I don't like that song, but I love that song," and we're now down with that.
Well, we're gonna go considering the time
3
period.
babies, and abortion, I guess, as you say, is still illegal. What I always remembered about Sinead during this time when she was doing interviews is like they would ask her a question, and you'd have to wonder, like, did they do editing, or does Sinead just constantly burst into tears and cry? Am I the only one who remembered those? Like, she would have a shawl over her head, and then she would cry, and then she would stop crying, and then she would cry. And
I don't remember those, but probably.
Is this because is it age, Dan? Is it age?
Yes.
Okay, we watched the shows live too, both together, not together, but yeah, I don't remember it because I just don't remember it.
You just don't remember it. And Emperor's New Clothes, I believe, was the follow-up single. Don't quote me on that, but
I think so. I really like "Stretch on Your Grave" myself, so that to me, in my mind, that's the second single, but that's just because I always played that on the tape.
There was a video for "Stretched on Your Grave," which I have not watched. I believe involves her in a snow-covered cemetery stretched on someone's grave. But Emperor's New Clothes, I remember that did get played after Nothing Compares to You was huge, and it's kind of an affirmation song. I do like Emperor's New Clothes a lot.
I love that song.
And I know, as my little junior high grade school self, because I was born in '89,
keep dreaming,
is that I always like the lyric that they laughed at because they know they're untouchable, not because what I said was wrong. And that just kind of stood out to me because that was very much a... Living in Parker, Colorado was just one of those, you guys are just really horrible horrible people, and you're just going to nitpick me to death, and you know you're untouchable. I didn't do anything wrong. And that always stood out to me. And I definitely love that if I treated you mean, I didn't mean to. You asked for the truth, and I told you. Mm-hmm. And I know I have a bad habit. My father says I inherited from him is that I do run a little bit more honest than is probably acceptable. And I even had an issue today at work with a manager that does things behind my back, and I can ask him something about something for 3 hours only to find out that he had did it 2 weeks ago and just never told me. He does things behind my back, and I finally lost it with him today. And I asked very politely, how can I correct errors that took place prior to me being hired or being done when I'm not made aware? And then I paused and waited for an answer, because that's who I am. I had it that I'm going to be honest of if you do things without telling me and I'm not supposed to know these are supposed to be done, how do I find these things out? He said to do more research.
Oh, wow. That's such an original answer.
He gave you an answer at least? Not saying it was a good answer, but it's an answer.
And go. You can.
Oh
say
no.
And I like Emperor's New Clothes because it only references the Emperor's New Clothes at the final line, is because what it is the Emperor's New Clothes. The fable, the moral, is that they have blown so much smoke up the Emperor's behind that he's now parading around in his underwear, believing he's wearing the finest of invisible garments. And it's finally a kid's like, the Emperor is not wearing clothes. He is naked. No one has dressed you. You're not looking fabulous. You're walking around in your BVDs. And I remember like the final episode of Daria, where Daria had to do a speech, and it's like, if the Emperor looks like he's naked, it's because he is naked. And definitely in this country with Donald Trump and the Republicans showing up for work on January 13th, and the first thing they tried to do was take health care away from 20 million people.
24 million.
24 million people now, only to realize, like, oh no, you cannot tell what amounts to 5 to 6 states worth of populations that they can go get sick and die. So they had to have a replace. And Mikey, you know more about why this replace didn't work, because number one, they did not have a replacement in plan. Don't believe that. I don't care how good Paul Ryan's BJ ears are. They did not have a plan. And why didn't they have a plan, Mikey?
No, because the plan that we have was their plan from 1994.
And that was based off of?
Well, no, that was...
Boston, Mitt Romney?
No. Mitt Romney Care in Massachusetts was based off the Heritage Foundation document from 1994 that has morphed into what the ACA is, with a whole lot of Democratic additions that the 1994 Heritage Plan did not have. The basic was healthcare with an individual mandate, requiring everyone to buy insurance, and then coming up with the different plans that you can buy, but everyone was required. That was their plan, versus at that point was Hillary Care, and we would get single payer health insurance similar to Canada.
So, yes, the Emperor doesn't have any clothes on, and he has really, really bad hair. And we're going to get into some more music. Oh, Dan has something to say.
One thing I just want to say really quick. Emperor's New Clothes sounds really great live. I've heard her do it live.
Oh, wow. Where did you see her performing at?
I've seen her twice. Both times were at City Winery here in Chicago. I think it was 2013 and then again in 2014.
And does she sing it with defiance? Is she angry? Is it her affirmation song?
She really gets into this one. She jumps up and down during the whole song. And the band just goes. It's so great. And I got to meet her after that 2014 show.
Oh, wow. No, she's actually a very small, petite woman.
Very much so, yes. My friend is only 5'2", so I kind of look like the giant in the valley of the little people.
It's okay, Dan. When I stand next to you, I look like a giant in the valley of little people.
So it's my comeuppance.
Yeah, karma. And now, more music, and we're probably well into our second hour.
You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel on Q4 Radio, AM 1680, Q4.org.
You are listening to Bottoms of the Barrel on AM 1680, Q4 Radio, Q4.org. I am your host, Thomas Bottoms. I am joined today in this pre-recorded episode with my partner in crime, the man who hits all the right buttons to make sure you guys get all this earful, Mikey Chip.
Ahoy, hoy.
And we're joined by a previous guest, but he is participating in ways I did not expect. Dan.
Hello.
And we are covering Sinead O'Connor, and you had probably just sat through Nothing Compares to You, what is the huge Sinead O'Connor hit. And this one's actually a cover, and people are like, oh, it's a Prince cover. It's like, no, it's not a Prince cover. It is his side project called The Family cover, which actually was a white guy.
Though you have just heard the Prince cover, because I can't find the Family cover anywhere.
Oh. And then Sinead O'Connor. And,
yeah.
This song was it was a very huge, very shocking, very striking song. The video won awards, which ends with Sinead actually crying as she's singing. An image that stood out to a lot of people of Sinead always crying. And oddly enough, a year before this came out, the Pet Shop Boys worked with Liza Minnelli, and she released a video called So Sorry I Said, which also ends with her, she's standing still in a theater, and it ends with her crying at the end. I don't know if we're going to work that song into our playlist, but we'll get to you, Liza with a Z, not Lisa with an S, because Lisa with an S.
We will put my spirit animal Liza in this show. I don't like her music, but she is still my spirit animal.
Yes, we while on our trip to New Orleans, we did purchase a Liza Minnelli Best of CD, and
there was one song on it.
There was... We found about half to enjoy, and I just have to say, in Liza's defense, is she just sings a genre I'm not really that big of a fan of.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of show tunes. I'm not a big fan of the bombastic. It's like, if you love Ethel Merman, good for you. It's just not for me.
I agree. It's not for me either. I'm not a Liza fan. I'm not a fan of that genre. And considering what song we're talking about, that's probably the only thing we're going to agree with on this segment.
Yeah, the Pet Shop Boys tried to take Liza pop, and...
Oh, Lord.
They had various degrees of success, and that's going to be a future episode. I'm more of a jazz blues singer. I'd rather listen to Billie Holiday than like anywhere near Barbra Streisand.
Oh, I could not agree more.
One day we'll probably do a cover wars of My Man of Billie Holiday versus Barbra Streisand versus Diana Ross. And oddly enough, Diana Ross does an amazing version of My Man. And Barbra Streisand does one that I just said, please turn it off. Just make it stop. And I've ended up with a lot of Pia Zadora CDs, and she sings in that Barbra Streisand show tune standards, and I don't know, I guess I like my singers to at some point have taken a shot of whiskey and maybe shot up. I just don't know. It's just how I view it. We so got away from that. But yeah, Nothing Compares to You was a huge song, and I always have a personal part of it because the song was very, very popular when my youngest brother passed away, and it's like several hours and 15 days, and I remember writing in my journal when it was like 15 days after his passing, because this song was huge and it just really stood out to me. It's a great cover. Sinead does it well. If we played the Prince version, I am deeply sorry that you had to sit through that. And
we're gonna try for both.
Gonna try for both. Double fisted here.
We're doing the secret cover wars.
The secret cover wars. And what was interesting, and I remember seeing this in a TV Guide article of all places, is what happened in 1990, which had slowly been progressing through the 80s, which this was probably round 2 or round 3 of it happening, where women were on top of the pop charts. Now, I would say, I think that happened in 84 and 85 with Tina Turner, Madonna, Pat Benatar, Cyndi Lauper. They weren't lauded that much back then, and oddly enough, when you got to 1990, they were talking about women on the pop charts, and it was Paula Abdul, Janet Jackson, all being led by Madonna, and there was Sinead O'Connor, who was somehow mixed into that bunch, but they didn't know how to respond to Sinead O'Connor because she was definitely projecting a more emotional, a more vulnerable, a more arguably a woman who had been hurt before, whether by men, whether by life, whether by child abuse. Sinead has said that I do not want what I haven't got. The whole album, and just the particular Nothing Compares to You, she's singing about her mother who had passed away 5 years earlier in a car accident. And even though her mother had been abusive, and Sinead speaks about child abuse, she apparently still loved her mother. More power to you, Sinead, not for me. And it is a very interesting dichotomy of throwing Sinead O'Connor in with like Paula Abdul, Janet Jackson, Madonna, but she did have those huge hits.
One of these things is not like the other.
I would say the closest she would come into is Madonna, who wrote and produced her stuff, but Madonna definitely, I don't think, ever became as vulnerable as Sinead. And I think it's just because that's not who Madonna is, that she's from Detroit. Detroit hustles harder. Mm-hmm. And there is a little bit of, Madonna didn't sit around crying about men. She just kind of like, well, you can kind of go now and I'll have my moment by myself. Well, you don't need to be here. You just really need to go. Is I think Madonna's more emotionally upset, hurt part. But your turn, Dan. I babbled.
You're fine. So I did say I was going to have the unpopular opinion. I hate the song. I really hate this song. I've always hated it. But, actually that's not surprising because it seems to be a tendency with me for the biggest hit of a lot of artists. In fact, most artists, I do not like their biggest hit.
That's not too unrare.
Oh, that's me completely. Like, random example, The Smiths, How Soon Is Now is their biggest hit. Good Lord, please don't play me that song. I hate that song. It's like 3 notes. That's all it is. It's 3 notes. Just do another song.
See, and I love How Soon Is Now, but
I did before I learned about more. It's kind of like with Sinead, or like a lot of, like, if you don't know a lot about that artist, their biggest song is really what you know of them. So you might, if you don't know anything else about them, that's the song you might place with them. I don't know why I got Sir Mix-a-Lot just stuck in my head right now. I don't have a better example.
I think for myself, and this is, I wouldn't say like, but for me, there's a lot of Beyonce and the Beyonce big hits outside of Crazy in Love. Like, I struggle. Like, I just outright hate some of them. Like, Single Ladies is the worst song I've ever heard. If I never hear it again, I'd be happy. Oddly enough, she had, I guess, Single Ladies demo called Get Me Bodied, and I actually like that song by Beyonce. It's like the Beyonce singles that bomb are the ones I enjoy, and the ones that become big, it's like I don't like them. I don't.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I think part of it is maybe they're just overplayed. They're picked out by the record companies as something that, oh, people are going to love this. We're going to make people like this. So they just overplay them to the point where it's, okay, there's got to be something else. So you listen to other songs in this album or any other album of hers, and it's like a breath of fresh air. A lot of them are better, and you haven't heard many of them.
definitely, and that is something that's really good. That as we were listening to "I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got," is that there was more meat to these bones. There was something to delve into, something to enjoy, songs that stood out to us, songs that didn't sound like Nothing Compares to You Part 2. Part 3. And when we did our Madonna episode about a month ago, just Mikey and I had delved a little bit into her Like a Virgin album. Oddly enough, one we don't listen to is that once you get past the pop singles where they sped up her voice to sound like Minnie Mouse.
It got very R&B.
Yeah, she was straight up doing R&B ballads, and Madonna can sing the heck out of R&B ballads. I didn't think she could, but she really does. Like, there was actually some meat on those bones. There was something to grab onto versus I'm trying to think of something that comes to me. I would say Beyonce's first album, Crazy in Love. Outside of Crazy in Love, I found nothing to enjoy from that album, and it led to me begin to dislike Beyonce.
I just don't like Beyonce.
You just don't like Beyonce.
I just don't like Beyonce.
I call her Benunka. She gives you fresh breath, and that's about it.
And what Sinead's probably going to be known for is that she created a lot of controversies during her day. We were, prior to the show, Dan Dan's a big Bob Dylan fan, and so we can expect a Bob Dylan introduction episode, which will probably be a lot of covers because I'm not sure I can tolerate that man's voice. And I even saw recently, like a Slate magazine did Bob Dylan, let's give him credit for his voice. And I didn't even share the article, Dan. I didn't share it because I still don't think that man can sing. I still don't think he's...
You know, Thomas, he does think he's Frank Sinatra now.
And
I could told you.
It's
New York,
really
New York.
And you mentioned Frank Sinatra because there was a controversy that Sinead O'Connor was supposed to perform at some venue, and she learned that they were going to play the American national anthem, the United States national anthem, and she's like, I don't do shows where they play national anthems, and so they didn't play it. But she did the concert, and then they banned her for life. I'm trying to remember what the venue was. And then Frank Sinatra performed and said, if I had been there, I would have kicked Sinead O'Connor's ass, which is interesting that this old man say he's going to beat up on this young 20-year-old woman. But it was a different time in America. F yeah.
Well, we should mention at this point her SNL episode.
Her very big SNL episode.
Because, I mean, like, if you think about what she did tearing up the picture of the Pope, like, 12 years later, people would not have had the same reaction.
I'm not sure about that, but I think we would have pointed out a little bit more as to why she did it. She did it because the priests were out molesting children.
Well, no, but I'm saying by 2002. That's what I'm saying. 12 years later, the Boston Archdiocese was almost bankrupt because of the cases that they were settling out of court And like
child molestation out of court settlements were bankrupting the Catholic Church.
The Boston Archdiocese.
Boston was really bad.
Yeah, there are a lot of Irish priests in Boston. They're Catholic, very Catholic.
Yikes.
Well, no. So, like, think about now at this point, if you make a priest and child molestation joke, everyone gets it.
Oh yeah, they definitely do. And she was
in 1990. If you did, or 1991, when like no one. That was not no one thought of that, and no one realized how bad what the Catholic Church was doing was there.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people understood the statement she was making.
She was performing the song "War." Was it a Bob Marley song? I don't think it was Bob Marley. She did later in her career get into some Rastafari music and things like that, but I don't think the message per se was really clear that she was speaking out about priests fondling and molesting young boys. And so when
children, no, because it wasn't
children.
It wasn't
okay. They were equal opportunity.
She's a girl.
Was she touched by a priest? I didn't see that. No wonder Touched by an Angel got canceled around the same time.
She was in a Catholic school in Ireland, and they had, like I said, 5 times worse the problems than the Catholic Church here in America, like, because the Catholic Church is so ingrained in Irish society
and absolute authority.
And absolute authority.
Oh wow!
So like the problems that Ireland was having were so much worse. That's why gay marriage is legal there, because they've rejected the Catholic Church that much in Ireland.
Because they've had enough of what they were doing. And that would be almost a psychological study that Sinead O'Connor has spent her entire life making sure her looks weren't anything that was attributable if she had been dealing with a lot of molesting priests, that she's wearing clothes that have no shape to them and she shaves off her head. That she has removed whatever is viewed as attractive on women from the way she lives her life. That's somebody that with a psychology major, not my minor, could probably look into. And I remember when the big scandal broke out in the early aughts, I don't know what we call it. I listened to the Tom Joyner morning show, and at some point, someone on his show stated, "Why aren't these priests in jail? Why aren't they in jail?" And the point is, they never were. No one ever arrested them. They just kept shipping them off to different parishes to start the process over again.
Well, again, the institutional support that the Catholic Church has in America, which is pretty minimal. Mm-hmm. Think of what Ireland. Think of where the Catholic Church is, like, has almost total control of your life. How that same situation would play out.
It would be vastly different. It would be something completely foreign to me because I wasn't really raised with religion.
Completely different.
And good, bad, or indifferent, my Madonna always comes out and she's openly stated to people, like, no one tells me what to do. If God thinks, if God's going to tell me something, he can show up and tell me. I'm not going to really believe you are going to be the vessel speaking to me. So we have done Sinead O'Connor. We've babbled on about her. We were going to delve into her third album, Am I Not Your Girl? But you will probably hear bits of that in the future because I like to do these little things called cover wars. And she starts "Am I Not Your Girl" with "Why don't you do right like other men do?"
A little bit of money, 1922.
And Jessica Rabbit sang it better than Sinead O'Connor.
I just sang it better than Sinead O'Connor just now.
"Am I Not Your Girl?" She's like, "Oh, I remember singing these songs when I was a little girl," and she's still kind of saying them like she was a little girl.
It's a painful album. It really is. I like Sinead O'Connor. You know, the thing is...
Let it out there. Let it out.
It's supposed to be your second album that's crap, but her second album was brilliant. It was... it was nearly flawless. Then she did that. It's... Oh, no.
No.
No, just no.
No. And she was led into that by the Red Hot and Blue, You Do Something to Me, which she actually does well. I hope we played that on this show with her versus Marlena Dietrich. But yeah, her Am I Not Your Girl was... The band is good, and in her credit, I had not known much about the jazz, 1950s jazz pop era. And through Sinead O'Connor, her cover of Black Coffee, which isn't outright dreadful, but I hung out with a friend one time. We were going through his parents' albums. We came across Julie London, and she was in some kind of sexed up cover. And even the cover made fun of maybe Julie will sell enough albums to buy the jewels she's adorned in, because sexism is good. But she sang a version of Black Coffee on it, and I'd heard Black Coffee, so I was like, play Black Coffee, I'll recognize that one. And it led me into my love of Julie London, that opened me up to Peggy Lee, that opened me up to Billie Holiday and 50s pop music and a lot of other genres. And I do own a Marilyn Monroe greatest hits, because Sinead sang "I Want to Be Loved by You" on "Am I Not Your Girl," which isn't a good version, but it did lead to other versions of it that I've actually found a lot of enjoyment with. And maybe if Sinead was my gateway drug, at least it wasn't heroin.
Well, thankfully, Sinead was not my gateway into any of that. But I mean, I just don't understand why she would attempt those when you already have the Julie London, the Peggy Lee, the Billie Holiday, all those amazing female artists that you've already mentioned. And you're just not going to top those versions.
It was a really bizarre trend in the early 90s that after Madonna released I'm Breathless, which was more of an homage from Dick Tracy to that era, that Sinead then did her cover version. And then there's a Sheena Easton called No Strings, where she does a cover version. And even Debbie Gibson has
Sheena Easton and Debbie Gibson.
And oddly enough, Sheena Easton and Debbie Gibson had better reviews than Sinead O'Connor's Am I Not Your Girl. Like, they were like, these aren't great, but they're better than Sinead.
But the thing is, it's not just an early 90s trend. It's still going on. You've got Rod Stewart, God bless his soul, doing
Oh
whatever.
my God. Rod Stewart sings the American Songbook. It's like, no, these songs were not about putting you to sleep.
I know.
Don't sing it like you're an old octogenarian on your gas mask at the nursing home.
You mean like
there
Bob?
There were spirits.
Look, I love Bob Dylan. I just hate these last three albums.
Start spreading the news.
Oh God, we could do a Bob Dylan versus Sinead O'Connor album.
Sinead might win. Wait, Thomas, we just might have found a cover battles of standards where Sinead might win.
I would throw in some Pia Zadora so I can at least walk away with my head held high.
You can walk away tall.
So this has been Bottoms of the Barrel. We've explored Sinead O'Connor. We worked in the I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, the cover version by Betty LaVette from her My Own Hell to Raise 2004-2005 blues album, which if you can explore Betty LaVette, definitely, and hopefully we'll work her into a future episode. And thank you for listening in. If you want to write to us, it is show@bottomsofthebarrel.
No.
How do they contact us, Mikey Chip? You're the tech. You help me out.
Message us on Facebook, Bottoms of the Barrel, or facebook.com/Bottoms of the Barrel, BARREL.
BARREL.
Yes.
Bottoms with an S, because my name is plural. This has been Bottoms of the Barrel. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the Sinead. Thank you for joining us, Dan.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming back and coming again and again, Mikey Chip.
Woo!
And I hope you all have a great day, and we're followed by the Magic Hour.